Hello and how's it going, everybody? It is Skullzi here with the latest and the greatest gaming news. And the news I have for you today is an update into my ongoing investigations into Bethesda Game Studios and ZeniMax. I discovered evidence that might suggest that Bethesda is currently doing some sort of major ongoing update to their game engine, or they're about to be doing major updates and upgrades to their servers for Fallout 76 stability, or to prepare for future online components in a future game. Either way, we're going to be going through all of this information together because, as always, I'm going to be recording my screen. That way you can see that my bullshit capacity meter is always running at 0%, and that way you can look this information up to verify it for yourself if you choose to. And we're going to start our adventure right here, and what this is the current ongoing, active, and pending list of all of the trademarks and patents that ZeniMax owns, and thus Bethesda Game Studios. There's a lot of information in here. However, if you know how to look at this and organize it, it can be pretty simple, and the first most recent activity that ZeniMax has been doing with their trademarks and their patents is updating an existing patent that they've had for something in-house related. Some sort of in-house, in-studio technology that is either related to their game engine, to their game servers, or some sort of blend of both. You can see that major filings for this patent happened in November of 2018, so you immediately think that this patent would be related to Fallout 76. However, this patent has existed before Fallout 76 was even announced. This is actually a continuation of a pre-existing patent that ZeniMax has already had. So I don't think this patent was made entirely for Fallout 76, however I might be wrong on that. I don't know how long they're planning to do an online game, a game with online components, or Fallout 76 stuff, and plus it's very likely that the original technology based on this patent could have been made for Fallout Shelter, because that game did have online components and is probably one of Bethesda Game Studios' first games to have online components, even though it's a mobile game. So even though I can't say exactly what game or property or whatever this patent is for, it is evident that it's been recently updated, because the most recent update is actually April 25th of 2019, which is only a couple weeks ago. So they're still doing ongoing updates to this technology, and Bethesda Game Studios is perhaps the most major game studio and major player that ZeniMax has under their wing, so chances are it is related to Bethesda, especially with this filing of 2018, November of 2018, which obviously coincides with something Fallout 76 related, so Bethesda Game Studios is definitely using this technology. Now you might be asking, what is this technology for? Well, that is up to interpretation. We can figure out some obvious and certain things that this technology is for based on this trademark filing, but we can't certainly figure out exactly what it's for. Bethesda Game Studios and other major corporations, when it comes to filing trademarks and stuff like this, the devil is in the details, because they especially mess with the wording and use as many technical terms as they can and try to make it seem hard to understand. That way they can hide their patented technology from people like me and other actual competitors. We can start by saying what the title descriptor is: systems and methods for player input motion compensation by anticipating motion vectors and or catching repetitive motion vectors. So I had to look up what a motion vector was, and for some reason it showed me a picture of an old person kicking some sort of animal. But it says motion vectors are typically used to compress video by storing the changes to an image from one frame to the next. We can use these motion vectors creatively to detect and track motion and to find an alternative traditional video coding phase shifting. Basically, what motion vectors are is they find a way to on-the-fly compress videos, JPEGs, and stuff to a lower resolution to take up less space and less data, and my guess is, with that in mind, this technology has to do with something related to a video game engine, or maybe a server, keeping track of what players are actively looking at or interacting with. Like if the terrain behind a player, obviously they don't need to render everything in high quality, or maybe even render everything or anything at all behind the player, so they can have active ongoing coding and technology to help take the load off the game engine and or perhaps the game server. Essentially, that is what I think this has to do with, and the fact that it says player input motion compensation, that kind of goes along with what I'm saying. So basically, if you're running around looking at like the mountains in Skyrim, the distance that you're looking at far away, yes, it's being rendered. Those mountains and those trees are being rendered to you, and they might look okay depending on your graphics setting, but I guarantee you if you pause and you zoom in those textures as they are way up to you, they're gonna look like crap because of stuff like this. They render the textures down so that way the game engine or the game server or whatever doesn't need to render stuff stuff at a very high resolution that you're not even going to be able to see the details for because you're so far away. That's just natural, that's smart, and I'm sure that they've had this kind of technology existing within Bethesda Game Studios games for a long time now, so I don't think that this technology has to per se be specifically related to game servers. Some stuff in this led me to believe that perhaps this did have to do with online games because it does talk about communications and management between in-house game servers and stuff like that. However, my estimation is that this technology already existed within Bethesda Game Studios in one way or another. Like I said, this patent in itself, even though it says it was originally filed in 2018, it is a continuation of a patent that pre-exists this technology, and I think that old patent even has the same inventor here, Michael Kopietz. So I think that this technology is related to Bethesda Game Studios' newer projects, maybe especially their future projects, and I don't believe it was in mind to be specifically used for online games, but because Bethesda Game Studios has naturally progressed to online games, they don't want to have like all these piles of game engines laying around. They had to break their game engine in order to get it to work for an online game for Fallout 76. So my guess is one of the main reasons we haven't seen anything from Bethesda Game Studios in so long is because they're working on a massive engine that encompasses online components, and this component, this patent we're looking at, is a piece of that engine. And obviously, if the engine needs to work with online games as well as single player only games, it would naturally have to have the ability to adapt and have these online components built in, even if they're not used for particular games like Starfield and The Elder Scrolls 6, because hopefully they don't have online components unless they're done right. I mean, we don't know what Bethesda has in plan, that they've surprised us before. But as you can see, this technology has recently been updated as of last month. This technology has existed within Bethesda Game Studios since Fallout 76 and other online games even existed. This technology has to do with game servers and game engines as a whole, as well as other communications between in-house, in-studio technology within Bethesda Game Studios. And my estimation is that this particular patent and component is a piece of a new game engine that Bethesda Game Studios is building as a whole. Because no, they don't need to trademark or patent their game engine as a whole as it is, at least not the way they do things, because the way Bethesda Game Studios seems to do things is their engine is made up of modular components that they can take out and put in on the fly. That's at least what I get from my investigations. I don't know if that's their plan for their new game engine or how they're going to be upgrading their game engine into the future, but as always, I want to know what you have to say about all of this. Let me know down in the comments below what you think about this patent, and if your comment wins the intro that I make it featured in a future video. Don't forget to subscribe to stay in the know when it comes to the latest and the greatest gaming news. Follow me over on Twitter for the latest channel updates and random stuff about me. Come over to the channel Discord chat server where there is always an awesome and active conversation and some speculation taking place. Come over to Teespring and visit the official Skullzi merchandise channel site. It's called Loot Drop. There's links for it down in the description below, and you can get a bunch of awesome Skullzi merchandise. Wear it before E3 to show your channel pride. You can get a bullshit meter t-shirt to let everyone know that your bullshit capacity meter is always running at 0%. And if you want to have your hand in providing future content and getting access to unique and awesome awards, as well as a little awesome unique Skullzi icon next to your name in comments on the video or in chat during live streams, then consider subscribing to the community on Patreon or joining the channel here on YouTube as an exclusive channel member for only $4.99 a month to get all of these things as well as the little Skullzi icon things. Like I said, links for all of this awesome stuff is down in the description below, and as always, thank you for watching. Be sure to tune in next time when I find a patent for Bethesda Game Studios' new coffee makers. Yes, we're gonna hack their coffee makers. We're gonna be spilling coffee all over the floor, Morty. We're gonna make Todd Howard slip in coffee, Morty.
Bye, have a great time.